Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks kind of like we're live. Well, if we are, what's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you are watching this. You're going to be hanging out with me in the garage, putting this motorcycle back together. So a couple of updates for the Blue GSX-R 750. We're going to be talking about some other topics, motorcycle primarily related. If it's your first time hanging out with us, welcome. This is my little slice of YouTube. It is basically just a background noise generator. Two Wheel Tuesday, as the name would probably imply, is about motorcycles and different motorcycle related type stuff. This is my opportunity to hang out with you, interact directly with you guys. It's also an opportunity for me to talk about bikes that I've done ride reviews on. It could be some behind the scenes stuff that I'm working on. And it could be topics that just couldn't quite make it to prime time. So without any further ado, let's get you guys back. You are currently sitting on the, whoa, hey, how you doing? This is getting all kinds of crazy. That's not going to work at all, is it? Y'all are sitting on the back of Bonnie right now, the T120. Bruce is in saying, hey, what's up, man? Hope everything is going well. Yeah, so last time we checked in, this GSX-R 750 had itself a little bit of a spill, and because of that, had to get some new body work for her. So that's what I'm doing. Huge shout out to Smokey, my gray GSX-R 750, for donating a couple of baubles, a couple of bits and pieces, getting this bike put back together. Smokey gets all the new stuff. So anyway, getting this thing thrown back together, and you guys are, I guess, going to be helping me along. So yes, new plastics. It's kind of funny just how obnoxiously expensive something that just is made out of plastic could be. It doesn't matter what kind of discount you get either. You're going to got when it comes to stuff like this. So anyway, so what I'm doing right now, like I say, I'm just fitting the new plastics on here. It's kind of funny in a way because I still can't believe. So for those of you guys that are not in the know, if you're watching this way later, I had dropped this thing, and that was a little bit embarrassing. But in the process of dropping it, it really did tear some stuff up. It wasn't going very fast. In fact, it was literally going maybe half a mile an hour when it tipped over. But such is life. These things do happen, I suppose. So getting her back together, that's the main thing. Let's see. That's asking belt drive experience. A little bit. I do have a little bit with a Triumph Thunderbird that I had. Friend of the show, where the hell did I put my damn things? Anyway, friend of the show, Enrique, has that bike now, but yeah, just a little bit, not a ton. Bruce saying, got out Bertha for the first time yesterday and again today. It was nice getting back on two wheels. Very nice. Yeah, I go through withdrawals whenever I don't get a chance to ride. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you're into this kind of stuff, it really does kind of get into you in a way. And I find, quite honestly, if I don't get a chance to ride fairly regularly, I just kind of get bitchy. Just a little bit. All right, so let me check in with you guys. And back to the belt drive thing. So it's kind of funny, that bike, as good as it was, I was always a little bit sketched out by having a belt back there. I don't know why that is. Shouldn't be. It's kind of an irrational thing, I suppose. But yeah, I never really got into a whole lot of the belt drive type stuff. All right. Getting our baggy. Funny how things change. Anyway, let's check in. We've got, Bruce saying it was 65 degrees yesterday, 55 today. The weather is about to go back to shit in a couple of days. That sucks. Beth's asking, modular helmet. No, not a big fan of the mods. Well, you know what? I know guys that love them though. So I just typically don't really gravitate to those helmets. Mainly because I find them to be a little bit big on me, but I mean, I don't have anything against them necessarily. What's funny, somebody had asked I forgot to respond. Somebody had dropped a comment asking what kind of helmet I use, saying that it sounded quiet. The helmet that I use for the ride reviews and like the ride along videos. And it's a Scorpion 320. And fun fact with that Scorpion, and I hate to admit this because this is kind of weird for me to admit for some reason, but that helmet, probably because I've spent way too much money over the years on helmets, but that Scorpion 320 is really freaking good. And it's quiet, it fits well, and it doesn't like grip the hell out of your head, but it fits nice and snug. So I do know why I got one. The original Scorpion that I got, kind of a weird story with that. I had been invited to race in an exhibition race at the NHRA Spring Nationals. It was the last Spring National that was held in Baytown, Texas. And I was thinking, was it the last one in Texas or was it just in Baytown? I guess it was I don't know if Ennis had one. Anyway, sorry, squirrel. And but I had an older helmet, and I thought that they might be a little bit strict as far as, which helmet that you can use and all this other stuff. So I got a new helmet, and it was only like $100. And the large did not fit so well on me, like at all. And so I ended up, that was the very first helmet that I ever used as a camera rig. And I learned how to, get microphones all mic'd up and everything else on that particular helmet. And so when it came time to get a true dedicated camera rig, I was like, dude, I got to get another one of these Scorpions because they're cheap and they're really good helmets for, micing up and getting out there and running around. So anyway, that is the story of that helmet. In case you ever wondered. It's kind of funny. Everything I seem to have has a backstory on it. Got to make sure this liner underneath here is set up where it's supposed to be. I think it is. It's funny. This is one of the parts of putting these bikes back together that it's kind of funny. When I first got the blue bike, this bike here, this was, if you're not familiar with the blue GSX-R 750, this was one of the bikes that was, in fact, it still has the property tag on it from Suzuki. This was pulled out of inventory and used as a demo bike for the Suzuki. It was the demo days, Suzuki demo days. And the funny thing about it is that, so I get a call and saying, hey, I was invited to come out and I, talk to folks and talk to customers and hang out and, eat some hot dogs and goof off, right? Well, the funny thing, I say funny, is there's this bike sitting there. And I asked Hunter, I said, dude, what the hell? They actually pulled a Z code 750 for the demo days. That's kind of crazy. And he goes, yeah, man, do you want it? And I was like, do I want it? So anyway, if you ever get a chance to do a demo day, This is why it's a good idea for me to not go to these things. The deals on the demo bikes are bananas crazy. Like they're crazy. Like I can't even tell you what a crazy deal I got on this thing. So, but the thing is that they're babied. Nobody really ever gets a chance to run them that hard. And this is actually a California bike. So what was interesting for me was when I rode this bike, it was a healthy version of a 750. I used to own a 750. I had another one of these. It was the 2025, and I ended up letting it go for the X-Star bike. And it's funny in a way because this bike would have been quicker than my older 750. And it's just kind of a weird thing. So anyway, I said, yeah, let's go ahead and do the deal, did the deal, brought it home and started the cleanup on it. And what was funny, this is a long way to finally get to a point, but whenever these bikes are in that fleet, in that, I almost said ride and review, in the demo fleet, they're maintained. They follow the exact same protocol. They're always maintained, though, my understanding is by the dealerships that have them in. And whoever got tasked with putting this bike back together, oh my goodness, they were not in a good mood. And so anyway, all the plastics underneath here were jacked. It was pretty funny. So anyway, I'm trying to get these things to mate up. I may have to pull that off here in a minute. But so yeah, so I'm trying to put out some videos as much as I can. I've got one coming up that is, I don't know if I'm going to redo this video though. It's basically just me riding my dad's bike. That's the Daytona, the T595, which is a 955cc triple. Funny thing though, every time I ride that bike, I really don't know. It's kind of a strange thing for me because I don't really have the same kind. I'm connected to it, but I don't have the same history with that bike that I have with the Suzuki's, right? Like I don't have track experience or, being up in the mountains or doing whatever with that particular bike. But what I do have with experience with that bike is when my dad and I used to go riding together. And that's whenever I'm riding that bike, I'm never really super aggressive with it, but I do like to, I'll turn the wick up just a little bit, And I was out playing around with that thing. And off camera, this is usually where the fun stuff lies, but off camera, I was playing with it. And I was thinking to myself, what's kind of weird, and this is why I'm debating on either putting that video out or maybe canning that video and putting together a video that's really more talking about the R9, because a couple of things. I put the video about that usable power thing when I'm on the 600 and I'm riding that thing, and it's one of these things where like I don't understand what does it mean, this usable power moniker. Because, and I brought up the Bonneville, and the Bonneville, which you're sitting on the back of right now, it's a T120, makes about 80 horsepower and about 80 pound-feet of torque to the rear tire. And it's nothing but torque. It's like horsepower is an accidental byproduct of what this bike does. But I love it for that. And it sounds amazing. It's got one of my tunes on it, so it runs really good. But I don't really expect too much out of it. This is just a fun bike that makes fun noises that me and my smoking hot wife can put around town on. And if I want to go make some noise, I can. So that's a lot of usable power, I guess. But there's also my dad's bike. And my dad's bike, again, being a 950 odd cc triple, making to the rear tire about 120 or so horsepower, give or take. It's going to be in the noise, right? And, it's a sporty bike. It's going to do sport bike stuff. it's not a lightweight, but I guess it's the only thing that I have that is as close as you can really get in the garage to an R9. And as it happens, it's really close. And as I was riding it, that video is just more me talking about the bike in general and not really talking about it from a comparative standpoint. But as I'm riding it, I was thinking, man, you know, if the R9 runs like this thing right here, that Daytona, that would be about as good as you could hope, but it would still get dealt with by my 600. And that just keeps me to thinking, you know, I don't really have a dog in the fight, quite frankly. I'm not interested anymore in the super middleweight class of bikes. And the reason for that is, well, how do you put it? Uh-oh. I gotta find the hole. Anyway, the super middleweight, I guess, class of bikes, because I don't really know what else to call them, because middleweight used to mean 600s, you know, some kind of a 600. And hold on, got another thought coming in. Anyway, so these 900cc bikes, I can't really call them a middleweight, even though that's what they're being called. But it used to be the 600s and 750s were also considered middleweights. And you had bikes like the 636 that would buck the trend of the 600, or the GSXR 750 that was always out there, the boogeyman, right? For that class, or any class for that matter. And so when these 900cc bikes start showing up to the party, whether it's a parallel twin or whatever, it just gets weird. So this isn't the first time this has happened before. And this is the point that I was really trying to make. So going around my ass to get to my elbow here. There was always the Ducatis that were out there. Bigger displacement, V twins, L twins, whatever. And they would always be running with the middleweights. And it was not uncommon when I lived in Northern California for 848s and for 748s that had been very well breathed on. Up in the mountains, those bikes were pretty good machines, man. But that's some pretty heavy artillery for that kind of battle. And it was not uncommon for me to tangle with those boys. And I got to tell you, those bikes, lightweight, lots of punch, lots of poke coming out of corners. I mean, you got to deal with a Gixxer 750. When it starts to rip, it's kind of game over, but it was still pretty darn close nonetheless. And the 848s with a ton of work could lay down a pretty decent number. But it was rare when you would find somebody that would actually throw the kitchen sink at one of those bikes. And, you know, we just had a lot of fun with those bikes back then. But, you know, is that the same? Man, I don't know. Because in my head, that is how it would go. You know, 848 versus GSXR 750. You wouldn't have this extra 50 or, you know, 40 cc's that would be still allowed for an advantage. It just didn't, the bikes didn't exist. So I don't know, the 900 plus or close to 900cc bikes were always going to be kind of punted into the leader class anyway. I mean, look at the CBR 900, 929, 954. They're not leader bikes, but they are top of the food chain bikes of their era. And so that's why, for me, in my head, I just can't wrap around the idea of calling a motorcycle a middleweight that is, for practical purposes, 50% larger than a 600, than its next, than the next bike. It's kind of like saying, okay, we're going to start allowing 1500cc motorcycles in super stock and in superbike class to go up against, you know, a GSXR 1000 or a, you know, whatever, you know, R1. Okay, so now you can have a 1490cc parallel twin or triple, and that's going to go up against the leader bike. And it's going to make about the same horsepower as a leader bike, just a lot more torque. And it's funny when you start to do a little bit of a mind exercise, a little thought experiment. That's how ridiculous it sounds, right? You would never see that. You would never think of that. But again, that's what it ends up looking like. And I don't know. I just think that it's kind of weird all the way around how that whole, I don't know, that whole middleweight Euro 5 thing just kind of developed. All right, let me check in with you guys real quick. Let's see. Skids is in saying, oh, the missus had an accident a few days ago in the CX-5. All is fine except for the car. Going to pick up another one on Tuesday. Just glad she was okay. Thank God she was okay. That's the main thing. Bruce saying the same thing. Armax in, what is up? Armax chilling out with, saying, sorry about your wife. Yeah, it's terrible. I hate to hear that, man. Glad to hear everything's okay. Armax saying, so Skid, so a Busa doing 183 is real easy and doesn't feel that fast. Ain't that the truth? That's the crazy thing about the Hayabusa is that you can park them at Autobahn speeds and they never really feel like they're being bothered by the request. That's one of the things that I like about the Hayabusa. And I am a little bit, I'm definitely on the fence about getting one just because I don't really know what I would do with it realistically, but I wouldn't mind doing, it'd be cool to do like a mile event or something like that. I just don't know that I would want to go through all the things that I would need to make that bike really work well. But one thing I can tell you is if you're going to do an event like that, or you do want to do some high speed, the Busa or the 14 are it's really the only way to go. Mainly because there's plenty of aftermarket support, but aside from that, they're so stable and smooth, and they just are kind of meant for that. Where the thousands, they'll do it, but they're definitely being, you know what you're doing when you're on that bike. I guess in a way that's kind of good because it keeps you very sharp, but I don't know. I almost, if I'm doing high speed stuff, I'll take a Busa or a 14 all day. Oh, Skid's hanging out with Ryan saying she was good. Very good. Skid saying the trees move like a blur though. Yeah. Armax saying the torque on the Busa is just nasty all through the RPM. It's awesome. I'm telling you. And that's why they feel like they weigh about 150 pounds less than they do. Because all that torque that's on tap. Skid saying my SS 950, that Super Sport Ducati, about 140-ish. That is about as fast as I've ever gone, even though Buddy's R1 back in the day. No way was I doing over 110, 120 in front of him. Yeah. Bruce saying, it seems like the new middleweight status is based off power, not displacement. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? Isn't it? It is seemingly based off of power, but the thing that's weird about it is that it's based off of power, but it's based off of power because of the super sport racing class. And in that class, the super middleweights, especially the R9, are given a lot of leeway to be competitive. And look, with all of the handicapping that they have been afforded, if they're not winning, something is drastically wrong. Look, GSXR 750 in that exact same class just now lost its weight penalty for 2025. Maybe it was 2026. Anyway, either way, the 750 just lost its 10 kilogram weight penalty. But here's the thing, the engine itself, bone stock in that class. Matter of fact, it's a bone stock engine that is neutered by 20%. Wow. Gee, so you mean to tell me you can throw the kitchen sink at R9 at, well, pretty much anything really, in that class, that super middleweight class, but you're going to neuter the 750. That tells me all I need to know about how good a stock GSXR 750 is. The Reel's in saying, hello, 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 hello. Real saying, how y'all doing? Doing well. Hope you are doing well as well. Oop. Bear with me here. I'm not saying it also is just engine size. It was also a weight range for middleweight. It kind of was. So back then, you know, again, it depends on how far back you want to go, because this thing goes all the way back to like the caveman days of motorcycles. But yeah, it's kind of funny, just the actual, like, it was a middleweight. That's back when the GSXR 1100 was, it kind of stood alone. It was a flagship, go fast kind of bike, right? But it wasn't, I mean, it was, you could race it, but I mean, it wasn't like the 750, which was kind of billed as a race machine. The Grand Sport Experimental R, by the way. If you ever wondered what GSXR stands for, that's what it stands for. Grand Sport Experimental Racing. This kid saying SS guys still tend to rag on any bike over 450 pounds. Isn't that the truth? The Reel's liking the Multistrada. Multistradas are nice. The V4, that's a hell of a bike, by the way. I'm like saying, probably skids. The county I was in, the cops know people use that flat stretch like I do normally, don't care. That's cool. We've got a couple of spots out here that are like that, but every once in a while, the spot will get hot. Mountain Grove. Armac saying, Professor, it's a Busa and you have Suzuki. How do I say addiction to Suzuki? Scratch the itch. I know, right? Look, I'll tell you something. Again, I've said this a couple of times. If there was a Busa, like a third gen that showed up, maybe a high mileage rig that somebody was using that was doing a lot of like interstate type stuff, which there's a lot of guys that use Hayabusas for that. Matter of fact, there's a lot of guys that use Hayabusas for day trip bikes. You can outfit them with luggage, and I mean, they'll go just wherever, just go, 12 hours this way, 12 hours that way, 12 hours this way, 12 hours home. And they'll make a week out of it. And Busas are really good at that, by the way. Long distance on a Hayabusa is easy. You got to remember, Hayabusas were used as cop bikes, still are, as a matter of fact. Skids, is a Busa modded yet? Got the pipes ordered. That's what I like to hear. Saying not doing a tune, I don't blame you. You don't really need one on a Hayabusa. Armac saying maybe some fancy rims. Fancy rims are always good on a Busa. In fact, I wholeheartedly condone that. Yes, please and thank you. Bruce is checking out. Got to be up. Oh, dang. Get some sleep, my friend. Oh, Skids, yeah. Up in Dallas, yeah. There's parts of Dallas that you just can't really play in. Bruce saying, hit that thumbs up. Yes, spike the like, as Sovereign would say. Armac saying, get Stubbs as a sponsor and have that as how the sponsor may be. I don't know. I need to work on that. I need to work on my my getting a sponsor skills. I don't know where Sovereign's been. He'll pop in on the on Motor Chat every once in a while. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to with the bikes lately. Again, getting the blue 750 put back together. Lesson learned. Don't let it sit there and idle out in front of the shop. But outside of that, looking forward to bringing you guys some ride reviews, hopefully really soon. I am so itching to get a comparison type of a video between the 600 and the GSXR 600 and the CBR 600 that's still up for grabs up at Stubbs. So fingers crossed we can get that happening here. Maybe if it's pretty, like maybe Thursday or something like that. I don't know. I got to see how the schedule works out. The reason why I'm so kind of queued up to do that is, look, when I rode the GSX, when I rode the CBR last time, I was coming more from a 636 and a GSXR 750 point of view. And that wasn't necessarily a fair play for the CBR. Also, keep in mind, I was doing a ton of GSXR 1000, and I think I just done the CBR 1000 video. So anyway, the point that I'm getting to is I don't really feel like I gave that bike a fair shake. And if memory serves me correct, and I might be wrong about this, but I think that there was some kind of a traffic situation, and I didn't get a chance to spend the kind of time with that bike that I wanted to. So in an effort to try to get that thing moving, I want to try to do a video that is basically just saying, look, CBR 600 from the point of view of a GSXR 600. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, that CBR is full tune with full exhaust. And it's a good running bike. I mean, all things considered, man, I would not be upset if I had, a CBR 600 in the fleet, but not that I'm going to add it to it, but it's just the idea is that, I'm kind of rekindling an old flame with the 600s. I mean, I did that with the 750 and, it's so funny coming back to a 600 after being around leader bikes and 750s and having an opportunity to ride pretty much whenever I want and just go play for like 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes or so, something like that. These little, play, hit some twisties, have some fun, get the bike up to speed, knock out some, some long sweepers, and just enjoy the motorcycle doing motorcycle things. It's so much more fun now to ride a 600 after all of that, developing a skill set over years, because God, they have so much more to give that I ever gave it credit for. I just wasn't good enough then to be able to extract everything out of one of those bikes. You get better as you get older and you practice and you play and you learn. And next thing you know, it's the stuff that used to kind of sketch you out. Now it's just commonplace and it's normal. You start to kind of think, well, damn, I mean, if I had that bike back or this bike back or whatever, blessed in a position I can do that. And it's kind of humbling in a way. It's not kind of, it's humbling in a way that you can't really put into words, but it's a fun kind of humbling. Like, oh, remember when you were worried about this? Oh, let's go do that. And then I'm just railing on the thing. And the bike is just so much better than I remember it to be. And that's one of the things that just irks me about not being able to throw a leg over an R9. I sit here and I talk a lot of shit about the R9, admittedly, but it's really more, it's like I'm trying to pick a fight, right? I want to like the R9, but with my family history with Triumphs, it ain't really the R9 that I'm mad at. If somebody's mad at something, they're typically lashing out about something else. It's that Triumph didn't make the Daytona that I wanted. And I wanted the R9 to be the Triumph that Daytona wouldn't make. And it's just simply not like that. So, and nor could it be. But still, the idea remains. I want to ride one. I've talked a lot of noise about it. I have ridden the XSR 900, which was tuned. Good running bike. Hell, it won Naked Bike of the Year on the channel. But I don't know. I gotta ride one eventually. The problem is they're nowhere to be found, and that gets frustrating too. Armac said, I swear I'm about to start a GoFundMe page for a Booster for Professor. I'll tell you what, if one of them comes up, I'll put it to you like this, guys. If one of them comes up and the deal is right, I'll pick one up. for sure. Skids talk about the new Chargers. So look better live and in person, I'll admit. I know it's not Saturday. I'm not swayed into buying one. Just glad they aren't as hideous in person. They are talking about cars for a minute. The funny thing is that it is a hell of a nice car to sit in. Dodge does what Dodge does best. And we'll be talking about this on Motor Chat on Saturday, but Dodge does what Dodge does best. I hadn't seen any of them on the road up until Thursday when I saw 3 driving around last Thursday. Anyway, point that I'm getting to is we're going to be talking a little bit about that on Thursday. One of the best interiors, if not the best, which is that's a Mopar trait. The funny thing, though, is that they're not bad cars. It's just not what we asked for on the Mopar side. So we'll be talking about that on Saturday. Skid saying, okay, enough about 4 wheels. That was for Sovereign, for sure. Oh, Skid saying the 6-packs were in full force at my local dealer. Several of them. I'm starting to see a lot of those hanging out now. Armac said, I drove one at test drive, Skids. Dear Lord, does that thing hook, the 6-pack, and love the Hurricane, badass little engine. Yeah, that's part of what makes them so good. Look, I'll put it to you like this, guys. Pearl, my truck, has the standard output, but it's got the Cat 6 and the intake on it. I drive that truck in stock mode with the pedal, call it like a pedal commander that's built into the unit, with that turned up a little bit. And that truck is a riot to drive, way stronger than it has any right to be. And that's on stock, right? And keep in mind, that truck ran a 1284. And it's right now number 2 in the quarter mile for the standard output trucks. So we've got a record there. We're holding down number 2, but we're also number 1 in the 8th mile. So I've got the 8th mile record. I'm number 2 in quarter mile. And I think I'm number 1 in mile per hour though in the quarter, just over 105 miles an hour. So still holding down records on the Mopar side. Skid saying, I'm shocked he hasn't drug one home. Yeah, he owns every other Suzuki, pretty much. I would have to let the 1,000 go to get one. But you know, that doesn't necessarily strike me as a bad thing. And the only reason why I say it like that is that I like handling and I value handling way more than power. And the funny thing about the 1,000 for me is that as great of a bike as it is, and it's my bike, I love that bike, but it's been a pain in the neck getting that R model sorted out. And but now that it is, it's really good, and I want to ride it more. And now that the weather's getting better, I'm probably going to start riding that bike a little bit more. But every time I ride it, I miss my 750 because I miss the feel of it. I miss the front end feel that the 750 and the 600s give. So, you know, for me, it's straight is just to get me to the next corner. And here's the other thing. I don't really go 170 or 180 miles an hour very often. I mean, I do, and it's fun. The 1,000 gets there quick. Yeah, but the 750s will go 170. I mean, think about that. I got 750s that'll do what 1,000 does for a practical purposes, not, you know, not outright. We're not trying to, you know, say it's the same. It's not, but it is in a way. Like it does the same thing and it will cover a number. So, and it does it a lot more stably than the 1,000. So that's another reason why the 750s are just so endearing to me, is that you can do nutty things in a much more safe way. Right. It's our job. Peer pressure, peer pressure. I know, right? So you'd say they had a pretty red one. Looks better in person. Yeah. Chef Sin, greetings. Skids is checking out. Good hanging with you, brother. Fist bump. So I don't know. I'm kind of in that weird mode right now where I don't really want to get anything else. And I'm probably just going to focus on the middleweights now. If a Hayabusa shows up and it is a bananas kind of deal, then maybe I consider bringing that on. But to be honest, I don't know, man. I'm too busy having too much fun with these middleweights. John's in saying, hello, gents. Hello, John. Hope things are going well, my man. I almost forgot about my drink sitting over here. Give me my drink. There we go. So, but I mean, and the other thing too is that I fear that if I got a Hayabusa, it would end up, I don't know, it wouldn't hear, well, I would ride it a lot more, I think. You know what? I tell you something that the Hayabusa would be great for: commuting. One of the reasons why if I ever got to a point where I wasn't, like, if I could go place to place to place, like go visit clients and stuff like that, and I didn't have to have my truck, I tell you what, I would commute the hell out of a Busa, because you can get the luggage for it and, you know, stack in your laptop and your stuff and whatever else that you need and let it rip. So Chef saying, put a GSX-R 1100 motor on that 750. No, not looking to do that. I'll tell you what, if I want to build something crazy though, I would probably build like an old school 750 and do the 1100 swap on that. That would be the right way to go. That would be a real fun bike to build. You know what's funny though? When I was a kid, this is kind of crazy. I love the GSX-R 750, but I was really in love with the 1100. But I was in love with the 1100 from the point of view that I always want to build a drag bike out of one of those. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. It always seemed to me like that was the right thing to do with that bike. Probably because my dad was doing a lot of street racing at that time with his Z1. So, you know, that's, you know, kind of right after that era came the 1100s. And so the guys that he would be racing with, one of his buddies had one. I always really, really liked that bike. It's a fast bike. Let's see. I am going to kick the can out of here. Let's scoot this thing back. I'm going to check and see if I need to pop this under thing. Oh, look at that, looking all good. Looking the way it's supposed to. This light, by the way, I don't even know if you can still get them. Everything around here has a story, right? This Sure-Built light from, God, I don't even know how old this thing is. It's ancient. I tried to find more of these and I couldn't find them. Maybe sold under another brand or I don't know. Anyway, this thing was in the attic for like, I don't know, years. And I refound it and the thing still works great. You can still have the charger for it. So saying, oh, the factory put 1100 on a 750 frame. Oh, that'd be a fun hot rod. Interlight saying, what happened to the ZX6R? The ZX6R was sold. The ZX6R was sold, and the new owner, I'm guessing, is in love with it because it's a hell of a bike. $675 saying, what up, bro? What up, 675? Joe said, oh, suspension issues. I guess you're talking about the 636, maybe. I actually had that bike dialed in once I got done with it. 675 saying, go to Harbor Freight and get the mini one. I tell you what, if they have these at Harbor Freight, I'll buy up a few because I love these lights. I've dropped it. This thing has been dropped from the loft. It's been abandoned in the attic. It's been, it was left under the hood on the Hellcat for about 3 weeks. So yeah, it's seen some things. It's a hell of a light though. Say it's more compact and charges quick. I will check it out. Good question, John. Any news on the release date of the 26 GSXR 1000? Well, it's actually now a 27. Unfortunately, we don't have a solid date yet. The original plan was that we were supposed to see these things start hitting in March. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. It's probably going to be April or May at the absolute earliest, but it could go into July. And a lot of times when manufacturers kick a product out, they'll kick it to the second half of the year, which would be July 1st. So don't be surprised if that's the soonest that you start to hear about that bike. Now, with that being said, what can you expect? Well, there's a lot of speculation right now about whether or not that bike is going to come with the LCD screen, or if Suzuki's actually going to surprise everybody with a TFT on that bike. Nobody knows. I would like to pretend for a hot minute that they would, but I don't know. Nothing is set in stone ever until the bikes show up. So as soon as the bikes show up, I'll be right on top of that, hoping to bring you guys content when they land. So as soon as they do, be on the lookout. Joe's saying a Z900 RS Cafe got totaled. Oh, damn. Next bike, XSR 900, GSX S1000, or CB1000 Hornet. I know the Hornets need tune. Stay away from the Hornet. I'm just going to tell you right now. You mentioned two bikes that are already better than the Hornet. If it's my money getting spent, GSX S1000. That is a hell of a motorcycle. If you want something that's a little bit less in terms of power and a little bit more, it's got a fun personality, XSR 900 is a great way to go too. But you'll never hear me sell against a GSX S1000. And matter of fact, the red bike that I did the ride and review, that thing damn near came home with me. That's how much I like that bike. 675, what are we doing to the bike? We are putting plastics back on it because I dropped it and jacked up the plastic, snapped up this top fairing. Oh, damn, I didn't even say anything about it. And I did literally just got through putting together the bike. I put the 16-tooth sprocket on the blue bike. So the blue bike and the gray 750 both have the 16-tooth front sprocket. And here's the thing. The blue bike was going to get the 520 conversion, one down on the sprocket and all that kind of stuff. I got to thinking about it. It's like, you know, last weekend when I was on the gray bike and just had the time of my life on that thing, I hadn't had that much fun on a motorcycle in years and years and years and years and years. And it really did re-solidify why I love the Gixxer middleweights so freaking much. My pace was easily, and I'm not even trying to, I'm not adding to it. If anything, I'm subtracting. It was at least 5 or 7% quicker on the GSXR 750 than it was on my 1000. And I was able to carry far better corner speed, way better corner exit manners. I still showing good mile an hour at the end of some straights, same indicated mile an hour anyway. So, yeah. So I thought, you know, with the blue bike kind of being the signature bike for me, it's gonna not get a 520. I'm just going to go ahead and let this setup run its course. And then at some point, maybe throw a 520 on it. But, yeah, this one is my bike. Love it. And looking forward to getting it out. But I'm also at some point, it might be sooner than later, I will be taking that 180-55 off the back of this bike and going with a 190-55. That tire setup on the 750 with the gear was chef's kiss perfect. So yeah, can't say enough good about it. And the funny thing is too, is so I was a little bit sketchy about really railing on the gray bike for the main reason that I hadn't run a set of Power Sixes before in that kind of an environment. And they had a thorough vetting, by the way. It was super foggy. Roads were kind of slimy. Visibility was crap. It was cold. It was like riding with a frosted visor. I mean, it was just, nothing was good until later in the day. But even when we started pushing the pace with not that great of conditions, the Power Sixes did great. And then once we started really getting after it, the Power Sixes were holding their own, no problem whatsoever. So yeah, I'll have to say that the Power Sixes definitely do get the bald guy approval, every bit as much as the S22s, which is as high a praise as I can give any tire. It's called Braun. Evening, everyone. Got to go. See you, Armac. How we going, buddy? So saying, I've heard 3 models, GSXR 1000, July 27. There you go. She was saying Hornets are trash. You know, the funny thing, I want to say that the Hornets had, and I don't know this to be true, but there was some rumors about an oil consumption issue with those bikes, but I don't know enough about that really to speak on it. I didn't find the Hornet to be as good as hoped. The GSXR, or GSX-S, I should say, 1000, to me, it felt stronger everywhere. Granted, I know that the Hornets need a tune, the American market bikes, badly. But the thing is, when I rode the Hornet, it was kind of an odd thing because it was a fun bike. It was definitely well worth the wait to be able to ride that thing. But then if you rode the GSX S1000 right after it, you'd be like, oh, damn, dude, now I know where the money's really spent. And again, with the GSX S1000 having the same frame and swing arm and engine as the 05, 06, 07 GSXR 1000, I mean, it goes without saying. It's got the small bore 1000, which means it's making a ton of mid-range torque. I had my Katana, which was also a variant of the S, and it is a hell of a bike. So, you know, like I say, if you're kicking around the idea and GSX S1000 is part of the bikes that you're looking at, chances are, if you ride it, you're probably coming home with that S1000. But that's not to sell the XSR short. That is a very good bike. You can get them for a song. They're a good looking bike. And I got to be honest, if you're not really tearing it up and you're not trying to get big mile per hour numbers out of your bike, which it's a standard bike, so you probably not. The XSR offers up a couple of advantages. One, in the looks department, because you can get that little half fairing looking thing, like I guess really more like a fly shield, throw the solo cowl on it and then do a tail tidy and put a tune on it and maybe throw an exhaust on it in an airbox mod. And that bike is a little badass in that configuration. And if one were to show up looking like that, and they have a clip-on. There's clip-on options that you can go and find on the internet. It's an aftermarket thing. I don't know. That bike starts to look real attractive, provided that, you know, the horsepower thing doesn't take over your entire decision-making process. Chef's talking about, modifications to the, are you talking about the 750? Yeah, I'm not, like I say, that bike, I mean, I had fun with it. It's just, it doesn't do parallel twin the way that I would want parallel twin to do. For me, if I were looking at a Hornet 750, I would, and I know I'm such a Suzuki freaking fan bitch, but when it comes to it, I'd much rather have the GSX 8S or the GSX 8R. mainly because I would want the 776 parallel twin. If it's going to be a parallel twin, I want it to act like a twin. And the only bitch that I have about the Hornet 750 and any bike that is a twin that is trying to not be a twin and have a lot of revs is that you lose everything that makes a twin good, but you don't get all the things that make a triple or a four good. And so it's kind of like, bro, stay in your lane. You're good at doing twin things. Just do the twin thing and be damn good at it. And that's what the 776 does. And you talk about a bike that does not give a damn about what a spec sheet says. Speaking of the 776, one of the bikes that has got to get on the docket is the TT. There is the green TT is at the dealership right now. And if I don't throw a leg over that thing and do a proper ride review on it, I'm going to kick myself because, okay, fun story with the TT and the 776, the P2s. Check this out. This particular 750 right here was being demoed by a guy, and I was behind him to his left on the green TT. And so you talk about, that the video that I did about usable power, right? Well, I was in the right gear for the TT and he was in the wrong gear for the 750. And we were going to get onto the highway. Well, he grabs a fistful of throttle and he's in like fourth gear going 20 miles an hour or something. Not the right gear for this bike. I was in second gear in the TT. So I grab a handful of throttle and the TT is trying to do a little power wheelie. And of course, what do you do when a bike starts to power wheelie? You roll into the throttle more. And of course, I'm going to chase it, right? Well, I ended up coming up on him on this bike. So I rolled out of it pretty quick. But that is the fun part. And if you can enjoy that type of riding and not, get a certain way about power numbers and stuff like that, that TT is a properly good bike, and it is criminally good looking too. So look, is it my company? Maybe not. Listen, I would rather the GSX S 1000 got that treatment, but the 776 got it, and I'm not complaining about it at all. Matter of fact, that's another bike. Anything 776 powered, in fact, it would probably be a V-Strom, but anything with a 776 is going to win the argument with me when it comes to parallel twin middleweights. That's just, objectively speaking, as somebody that gets to ride all of these things, I'm going to be the first guy that will tell you that for a lot of people, that bike is the way to go. And it makes sense because a lot of guys like it. Mickey's saying, forgot it was Tuesday, just got here. Just say, Brother Mickey. Welcome, Brother Mickey. 685 saying, I'd like to see more tuners for bikes. I don't believe in base tunes by sending ECUs out. I'd rather dyno tune. I tell you what, the funny thing about dyno tuning is that, because I thought about doing that. With my tuning background, you would think it would just be like as simple as doing it. Whether or not that ends up happening, I'm not so sure. But if I had a facility, you would think this would work, but it really wouldn't with the location of it. But if I had a facility that I could get away with it, I would probably just get into tuning and obviously start with Suzuki's and go from there. I have tuned a couple of motorcycles. I tuned my Thunderbird and I tuned my, well, you're sitting on it right now, my Bonneville. And it runs good. It runs real good. So anyway, you would think that I would just be like automatically doing that, but I'm not. Probably need to get the software and start playing with it. Maybe that's something I can do this year. But hey guys, with that, listen, we are coming up on 1 hour and I got to get this thing wrapped up and I got to hit the sack because I got to wake up crazy early. Listen, guys, thank y'all so very much for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. Get out there and do something cool. Excuse me, trying to choke on your own spit. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. But with that, guys, I got to check out. Y'all take it easy.